Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, here, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is September 16th, and right now we are looking at the mid-level water vapor loop, BC, Washington, Oregon over here. Here's Alaska. Look at this mid-latitude cyclone, very deep, impacting the Bering Sea here. One of the strongest storms potentially in the last 50 years to hit this region. These are normally located a bit further south across the Aleutians and Gulf of Alaska. It's very rare for a storm this deep to take this kind of a track across the area here. You can see this weak system sliding through the Pacific Northwest, bringing a little bit of light precipitation, mainly Washington and southern BC this morning. Maybe a little bit of a convergence zone setting up across Central Sound this afternoon and evening. We'll check that out. Here's the stronger system here. It's eventually going to end up off the California coastline here, bringing some much needed precipitation down across California. It may clip southwest Oregon here, and then eventually this will eject back up northward and may bring some more beneficial precip for Oregon, even up into Washington as possible, across Idaho and Montana here through the extended. We'll take a look at that here coming up. Looking at that mid-latitude cyclone here, look at this 938 millibars, very deep low, very strong winds are going to hammer the coastline here. Coastal erosion is possible across these regions. Nice storm surge, flooding is possible. So again, this is a very unique storm. These are usually located a bit further south across the Aleutians, out over the Pacific and Gulf of Alaska here. Check out the wave heights with this thing. You can just see this shows quite nicely the amount of activity it's going to be battering the coastline here. And again, a nice storm surge is going to be coming across the area, perhaps 10 feet. Could be some significant coastal erosion and flooding along the immediate coastline there. Now, taking a look here, this is the NOAA tide gauge. Look at this, about 10 feet above normal here, forecast to come up here as of September, tomorrow morning, actually, September 17th, the morning time. So could be some kind of crazy activity there along the coastline. It is a very delicate system up there, the coastline there. So I know that the locals up there are watching very closely on this one. Now back to the Pacific Northwest here. We go Spokane, Washington, always good with their graphics. Some strong westerlies coming through the east slopes of the Cascades, coming across the region here out of the southwest. And then you can see some blowing dust is possible with that. So heads up for that out there. Seattle, last 5 days below average temperatures. That's going to continue through this weekend as that trough moves across the area and moves down over California here. But we are going to warm up as we go on into next week. And we do have the potential for a warm end of September here, but we still have some model disagreement. We'll check that out here in a moment. Now looking at the NAM 3KM high resolution model, 6-hour precipitation. You can see that convergence zone kind of hanging around the central Puget Sound. Not a lot of precipitation, kind of crossing my fingers. I get enough to water my lawn here maybe. But you can see that low drop down towards the California coastline here. And you notice some of this wraparound moisture really brings some nice precipitation values to southern Oregon Cascades, southwest Oregon, even up towards the east slopes of the Cascades of Washington as well. As this upper level low will sit down here for a bit and then eventually eject northeastward. We'll take a little bit more look at that here in a moment. Just kind of pinpointing here on the HUR, you can see just that, just some light precipitation with this convergence zone across the Central Sound. But even 1/10 of an inch would be welcome at this time of year. Looking at the NAM 3KM, a little bit more precipitation showing up here. You can see maybe a couple tenths of an inch across some lucky portions of Seattle, out towards the upper elevations, the Olympic Mountains, west slopes, the Cascades, maybe Tiger Mountain areas out there towards I-90 as well. Now taking a look here, the European, this is total precipitation in inches, yesterday afternoon's run. Just going to let this run out into the future here, and you can see that storm system drop down across California. It does show a little bit of that similar activity that the NAM was showing, some wraparound moisture coming up through the southern Oregon Cascades. And then as the slow spins here, eventually ejects back up northeastwards, and you can see it brings some nice beneficial precipitation across Oregon, eastern Oregon, maybe up even to this east slopes of the Washington Cascades as it moves across Idaho and Montana eventually here. But you can see not much precipitation forecast for Portland, western Washington, coastal regions here, portions of Vancouver Island as well. Now looking at 10,000 feet here, kind of an interesting look at things. We put this into motion. There goes this weak system tonight sliding through. Then you can see the bulk of the cold air moves down off the California coastline here. This thing just gets completely cut off here, just waiting for the westerlies to come pick it back up again here. And as you can see, as we get towards mid and later next week, finally it starts to eject back up across the region here. But Fingers crossed that this does bring some nice precipitation amounts across the Oregon Cascades, east slopes, as they are dealing with some pretty extreme drought conditions there, and maybe this will even get up towards eastern Washington as well. Now looking a little bit further out, we're going to check out 500 millibars, 18,000 feet GFS. Here goes that weak system. Upper level low moves across California here, bringing that precipitation there. Start to try to build a ridge over the area. It's not going to get, we're not going to get downright hot or anything. It's just upper level low proximity here, but we should warm up across Pacific Northwest. And then we go off into the extended, and you can see the GFS try to build a little bit of a ridge here, but we'll check out the European here, which has got some pretty good disagreement as we go through the end of September here. Gulf of Alaska trough starts to get going here, and we bring some more marine influence and maybe even some precipitation down into the Pacific Northwest. But this is getting way far out there. Too far out to be banking on anything yet. But now let's check out the European here. Some pretty interesting differences as we go through the extended. You can see upper level low off the coast of California. There's that ridging here. Upper level low ejects, but then watch yesterday's European control run. Look at this stout ridge. It builds across the area. Big dome of high pressure would bring some pretty warm conditions across Pacific Northwest, although we still are too far out to be banking on anything yet, especially with the disagreement on the GFS. This time of year is notorious for kind of showing things and then taking them away. Although this has been going on for a couple days now in the European, this strong ridging, before we finally break down that ridge towards the very end of September here. So yeah, just something to watch at this point. We'll try to work out some of these disagreements here between the GFS and the European here as we go on to the next couple of days. Plenty of time to work that out still, as that ridge would be about 10 days out. Now check this out, dynamic tropopause pressure. You can kind of see the polar lobes across the North Pole here. You can see the weak system slide through here. Trough digs down out over California. But look at, if we go back, look at the amount of warm air this mid-latitude cyclone is bringing up across Alaska, really building that ridge across the area. And it really drives that trough all the way down into California. So models did a pretty good job picking up the location of that. Well, it hasn't happened yet, but it looks like it's going to. It looks like they had a pretty good beat on that. And as we go through the extended here on the European, you can see this next ridging kind of start to build over our area here on through the 10-day period. And that's what's kind of highlighting that potential warmth at the end of September here. Now, taking a look here, this is the same look at things here with the GFS, just showing that warm air being brought poleward here with that mid-latitude cyclone moving across the Bering Sea. Ridge tries to build across the area here, but we have that cutoff low kind of throwing a little bit of a monkey wrench into the pattern here. It depends on what kind of cloud cover, on just how warm we're going to get, and then how this thing ejects up across the Intermountain West. And the GFS, again, not as bullish with that ridge building across the Pacific Northwest here versus the European. Now looking at Seattle, Tacoma, you can see the chilly temperatures almost here. There's some highs only into the 60s here for Saturday as that trough drives down across the area. Then you can see us bounce back though as we go on into a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Some temperatures probably nicely into the 70s here. And again, in the 10-day period, the European showing some pretty warm temperatures, perhaps up into the 80s here. But again, that is a long ways out, and we're just going to continue to monitor that at this point. No alarm bells need be sounded for that heat just yet. Rogue Valley, Medford, you can see the trough swinging by. Maybe some precipitation down there for Medford as this upper level low spins across California. Maybe that brings some of that and the wraparound moisture up there from Medford. And again, the European here with its strong ridge would bring some very warm temperatures, but again, too far out to get too concerned about that just yet. Here's Kamloops kind of showing this again here. If that ridge does develop, we would get fairly warm across portions of eastern Canada. And you can see that troughing exists as that first portion of that system really keeps eastern Canada pretty cool and brings some nice precipitation amounts up through British Columbia there. Looking at Seattle, Tacoma, you can see the little bump for the chance, a little bit of precipitation tonight. Some of the ensemble members have 1/10 of an inch here, but for the most part, not a lot of precipitation expected. And then you can see kind of the chaotic nature of looking at an ensemble run here as you go out through the extended. Here's Snohomish County, Payne Field. A few of these members do have 1/10 or a couple tenths of an inch of rain here as we go through this evening and towards tomorrow morning. And again, with the chaotic nature at the ensemble runs here through the extended. Here's Bellingham. It looked like we're getting a little bit of precipitation today, but just not much is expected out of the system, as you can see there. Now, looking at the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook right now, they are preparing for the potential for that ridge here coming through the extended September 23rd to 29th shown here. You can see that bullseye across western Washington, Oregon, and the Cascades. And of course, the below average signal this would bring here for precipitation. So that's what we're looking at now. We're dealing with this system and then this next system, which is kind of a part of this general troughing that's going to exist across Pacific Northwest. Upper level low will eventually fill and eject back over the region here. And then we have the potential for that warmth at the end of September, but we have plenty of time to figure that out right now, just how warm we're going to get across the area. But yeah, so you'll probably hear about this storm system if you're checking out social media, that deep low pressure system moving across Alaska, and that's going to throw that ridge across Pacific Northwest. We should warm up quite nicely here through this week coming up here, but no guarantees. You always, it's kind of a wild card, this low pressure being here off the coast of California. It could be spreading high clouds up over the region and mess with some of our high temperatures here. But anyway, we'll do this again tomorrow, and I hope you guys are enjoying these videos. Click like, click subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.